Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your Monday morning espresso shot. I hope everyone's doing well. Let us begin by placing our awareness in the area of the heart and taking slow, deep, gentle breaths and visualizing these flowing in and out of your heart, breathing a little slower, a little gentler than you normally would. And just take these slow, deep, gentle breaths. Keep your awareness in the area of your heart and just experience the heart rising and falling, your chest rising and falling as you take these slow, deep, gentle breaths. And just sit with these wonderful heart hugs that you're giving yourself, that you deserve so much on this very Monday morning. Now see if you can take these breaths even a little more deeper, just slightly deeper, so that you are taking the full capacity of your lung and you're drawing these breaths in and allowing these breaths, when you exhale, to go through every cell in your body, from the top to the bottom of your head to the bottom of your feet. Just take those deep breaths. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, and happy Monday morning. And for those of us who are commemorating Remembrance Day, happy Remembrance Day. I hope you'll take the time at 11 o'clock today to a moment of silence for the brave men and women that did serve our country. And today, many people, when we think about today, Remembrance Day in Canada and I believe US, and other parts of Commonwealth countries. Remembrance Day, people think about saluting the heroes, both who have passed away, died in the line of service, the veterans, for serving in a way that gives us our freedom and the peace we enjoy today. And we often consider that these men and women who fought, we look at them as saying they're heroes. But we also can't help, some of us, saying that there were enemies and there were heroes and villains, and they would look at good and evil. And that's really what some people think about this day. To me, I'd like us to think about it differently on two levels. On a global level, I'd like to think of this day as one where former enemies came together to create lasting peace. They came together to reconcile the atrocities that were committed on both sides. The Allies dropped a nuclear bomb on Japan. The Germans, were ruthless at that time, And so there were atrocities committed on both sides. And one can argue that it was just the times that required those measures. So, it was the men and women who fought and put their lives on the front line, and their families who actually had to lose their loved ones or had to stay sleepless nights, wondering where their son was, or where the husband was, or where the dad was, or where the mom was. And all of these things takes a toll on individuals. So when they come back, it's a difficult transition for them to transition back into this life. So we know that soldiers and people who served in the front lines or even in the back lines, they were always on the edge. They were always in survival mode during wartime. So the next layer down I'd like us to look at is the soldier within each of us. Because there's sometimes we're fighting a war as individuals without really fighting a physical war. There's no invading army, a physical invading army. But what's happening is that for us, some of these emotions that we experience are just as real. And our body responds as if we're in a battlefield of our own. And just as we salute these heroes and say, you know what, you took a bullet for us, we so much thank you for your service, that you sacrificed yourself for us. I'd like you to take today and remember those that actually did something to sacrifice themselves so that you could benefit emotionally. I look at my parents. My parents, although my dad and mom weren't in the army, they're not veterans. They had a lot of emotional issues because they had to leave Africa under turmoil to come to Canada. And that's the shoulders upon which I stand right now and thank their sacrifices and their tenacity to get us here. Do you have somebody in your life that has taken emotional pain, emotional sacrifices for you so you could do whatever you're doing right now? And let's honor the soldier within them, because we're all soldiers. In that way, we're fighting these emotions, we're exploring these emotions, and we're trying to transform them. And when we honor the soldier within, we honor the soldier outside of us. We cannot say we honor the men and women who served in this way without honoring ourselves first. So that to me is something that's very important, is to consider several things here. To summarize, first thing is to remember this day as one where former enemies came together to create a lasting peace. And these former enemies are now allies, as a matter of fact, in economic alliances. So that's the first thing to remember. Second thing to remember is to really thank the servicemen and women and their families. Don't forget their families, who sacrificed so much to be away from each other in order for them to really create a lasting peace for us. And the third thing is to honor the soldier within each of us and those that have served us, not in a military way, but in a way that helps us enjoy life better. And we honor their sacrifices that they had to make in order for you to be a better individual today. So I just wanted for us to look at these three layers and honor the soldier within. So let us now begin to honor ourselves again, and let us place our awareness in the area of the heart, taking slow, deep, gentle breaths, experiencing these breaths flowing in and out of our hearts, breathing a little slower, a little gentler than you normally would. And as you take these slow, deep breaths, I want you to begin to feel the emotion of honor and courage. And I want you to experience this feeling right now. And I want you to project this to the brave men and women in our lives and the children in our lives who have displayed so much courage, so much honor, so much resilience to make our lives better. Let us honor this day that brought us peace, a lasting peace where former enemies came together, and find it in our hearts to approach who we consider as our enemy today and make peace with them. Let us find the emotions in our heart to allow for compassion to flow, for understanding to flow. Let us take these slow, deep breaths, experiencing them flowing in and out of our hearts, and experience courage and honor as emotions today. Maintain your awareness in the area of the heart. See if you can slow down your breathing just a little more. And see if you can give yourself permission to experience a little more intensity of emotions, of courage, of love, of gratitude for those who have served us in their own way. Thank you so much for joining me this Monday morning. Wishing you the best for the week, and again remind you to take a minute of silence introspectively and explore the courage within and beam it out to those men and women and their families who braved so much to serve us on this anniversary day. All right? Happy to take any questions that you may have. And as you're typing those questions in, I want to let you know, if you're a member of the Ignite program, the Ignite October webinar is up and loaded. Feel free to access it by logging into your website. And if you want to plan to come out to Sedona next April, I'll be happy to see you. Just let me know if you're coming there so I can be sure to look out for you and we can connect. There's also a 4-day. This is a deep dive into your self-development experience. People have experienced some massive breakthroughs. I've seen it unfold in front of me in workshops. So May 14th to 17th, if you're coming to Florida, please do let me know and I'll look out for you there. All right, I see one question come through, or a comment. Let's see. Yes, it's Anne. How does one create a thought or intent of a world where there are no reasons to war at all? Does it begin with learning to be truly at peace within our own self first? I believe you've answered your question. And you see, wars are started because both sides do not see any way out of a situation. Now, if you truly believe that you can create your own life, and I do, and if you truly believe that, the unknown space is one where you can pick any solution, there's infinite amount of solutions out there. Just because I haven't thought of the right approach doesn't mean one right approach doesn't exist. And so the question then becomes, if there are two fractions that want to fight each other, but they see no way out of it, then they're going to fight. However, if they are able to dive deep within and explore the many different, infinite amount of options available, they can come up with a reasonable, pragmatic solution to avoid bloodshed. So that having been said, we put the onus on the individuals who are in a leadership position to do that. Now, your question is much more higher, more global, saying that can we shine our intent to do that? Can we inspire our world leaders, or those who are, about to, have their hand on the trigger of the war? Can we inspire them just by our intention to not do that? And I can tell you one thing, that there have been there's been a lot of evidence to show that if there is a group of people with focused intention that actually go dive deep in and send out intention for peace, not for a particular outcome, not for how things should be, but just for general peace in this world, and just send it out with emotions of courage, of gratitude, of appreciation, and just send it out. There has been scientific evidence to show that there's a de-escalation of fighting. This happened in Lebanon, actually. There's a study that was done that when people sat down and just prayed and meditated, that the Palestinian wars kind of dropped off. There were less fatalities that day, less bombing that day. The Maharishi effect is a well-known kind of thing that happened in New Jersey, I believe. And if you look up on Google, Maharishi effect, where 100 people sat down and began to meditate, transcendental meditation, and the crime rate in the area dropped significantly based on an average, from before. So yes, and it's absolutely possible, and evidence has shown that if we sit in prayer and in meditation, and especially if we have more than one person or 3 or 4 people, and we focus our intention on world peace, just be grateful in our hearts and have the emotion of love and compassion, that it can have the potential to transform the world. So thank you for asking that question, man. Another question that's up here, Sue, hello from UK. I believe conflict is started because everyone, each nation, each religion wants to be right. Actually, I would add to that, Sue. I love how you stated that. I would add to that. I said, I think conflict started because everyone, each nation, each religion doesn't want to be wrong. I think it's a different kind of flavor to what you just said. One of the things is that when I'll take my own example. I had a certain belief system when I was in my mid-20s. And when something that showed up for me that looked like it would contradict my belief system, I was holding on to not being so wrong that I would dismiss whatever came through without being an open-minded and saying, you know what, when I add this to what I believe, I'm just seeing a different perspective of what I believe. It's not that my belief is wrong. Because we hold on to the belief system so dearly, because we feel that by the belief system crumbling before us, that we ourselves lose a part of ourselves because we've invested so much in this belief system. So really, you're right. I mean, you look at the nations, they've entrenched themselves in a certain dogma, in a certain approach, and the ego gets in the way, and they don't want to be wrong. I think that's a more deeper kind of experience that they're having right now when they're actually in this mode, is that they just don't want to be wrong, and they will do everything to deflect any factual things that are coming at them. Look at the climate change debate. And I'm not going to take a stand on one or the other. We do know for a fact that climate change is happening. The question is, the debate is really whether humans are accelerating climate change or not. And that's up to the different people to debate. However, there are people who've taken, made it their career almost, their livelihood, to challenge or to actually be a progenitor or a promoter of of human-led climate change. And for them to say, you know what, I was wrong in this way, or you're right in this way, would be to take away, it's a personal investment in them. So yeah, I think you're right. Anne said, if we learn not to want to be right or want to be wrong personally, it will affect the world in the long run. Yes, absolutely correct. I mean, if it's all about, I had a client tell me yesterday, I was coaching her, and she says, you were very harsh in your trying to get me to do something different in my business. And I looked at her, and I wanted to be right. I wanted to be the one to say, you know what, I couldn't pull back because you were absolutely doing this, and I would see you heading for a brick wall. And I kind of became a little more self-aware here, and I asked myself, do I want to be right in this situation, or do I care for this person and want this person to actually feel better about where she's heading in her business? And it was a struggle for me to have to consciously bring myself to that point of even exploring that. A year ago, I would have just gone and said, no, this is why I was doing this, I'm right. And then we would have not dislodged that. So what I chose relationship over being right. And I didn't, who knows if I'm right or wrong. I just have an opinion. But in the end, when I actually moved in that direction and said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Can we, take a step back and explore this? I'll tell you, within seconds, we came up with a perfect solution that her and I were just excited about. And we're still talking about it to today, saying that particular moment, even though it took her through the emotional pain, and where she had to she was almost in tears because she thought I was pushing her and challenging her. And when she said to me, look, you're really beating up on me, I pulled back, I apologized, and I said, I'll be more self-aware next time. And then that kind of gave her the opportunity to clear up her head. And then we came up with a perfect solution, which both of us were just excited about. So yeah, I think if people take the time to not want to be right all the time, or to protect from being wrong all the time, this world would be a much better place. So thank you so much for that comment, Sue. Thank you so much. I don't see any more comments coming, so I want to thank you for joining me today. And at 11 o'clock, I'll meet you in that behind the veil, where we're going to connect and give peace and thanks to the men and women and their families who sacrificed so much today. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Take care for now.